All right. Hey, everybody. This is Rosh, and you're watching FM9 Basics. This is a YouTube tutorial series that I'm putting together to help new and experienced users program all the Fractal products, including the FM9, the FM3, and the Axe 3. So if you've been following this YouTube channel, a little about myself. Once again, my name is Rosh, and I build and program guitar rigs for clients both in person and online. So my clients include Steve Vai, Leppard, Melissa Etheridge, Perfect Circle, Bush, and more. And I wanted to give back to the Fractal community and show some tips and tricks on how to program all the Fractal products. And in this case, the most recent series of YouTube videos that I have been doing have been gig-ready presets. So these presets that I have designed and I am selling in the link below, they're mainly designed for new users who just get a Fractal right out of the box. So in this case, these presets, this preset in particular is going to be for the FM9, and each preset that I build is going to be, a preset designed for a very specific guitar. It's going to be designed maybe with, certain tones and qualities in mind, and, for different users. Because one of the main things about programming any Fractal is that every type of guitar player is totally different, maybe different styles of music that you're playing, maybe different guitars that you're using. And as such, there is no one, best preset or best amp or anything like that. So I wanted to have a lot of these presets available for new users. You get an FM9, take it right out of the box, and you want to take it to your cover gig tonight. So these presets are designed for that. They're designed to be easy to use. You can just put it right inside your FM9 and then use it on your gig tonight. And again, they're designed to kind of be, maybe some specific tonal things in mind, or maybe, you're a Strat player and you want to use it through a very specific type of amp. In the future, I'm going to be doing a lot of different variations of these using different guitars, different, maybe multiple amp blocks or different amp channels and everything like that. This particular preset is going to be for all you Strat players who want to go through a clean-ish type of Marshall. So again, this is going to be a one-channel type of thing. And in this preset, we're also going to give you a lot of different effects that you can use. A lot of this, the tones and the sounds of this preset in particular are going to be kind of possibly, some of our, more famous, infamous Strat players that use Marshalls. Some of my favorite players who use Marshall-style amps are like Mike Landau and Scott Henderson. So there's going to be some of that stuff in there. And again, this preset is for sale in the link below on Gumroad. Gumroad is a reputable digital online seller. I feel like the price is completely fair. And again, I never want a financial constraint to prevent any user from getting any value out of my YouTube channel. Many of you have already purchased previous presets. Many of you have hired me to program all your Fractal products. And I'm very, very grateful for that. I never take that for granted. And so you can totally build this preset straight from scratch. If you follow along, I'll go through all the settings. There's not going to be any secrets or any, hidden features that I don't tweak. And again, this is going to be based off of, some approaches that I generally use. There's going to be a lot of effects that you have access to. There's going to be ease of use to tweak some of your sounds live. And again, later on in this video, I'll do a little overhead shot of the FM9 and show you how you can tweak this on the fly, because again, every guitar is going to be different, every player is going to be different, etc. So let's get started with just the signal path. Right here, we have an input block. And again, you'll see that the gate is up a little bit because I'm using single coils. Now, my Strat is a pretty generic standard Strat with 2 single coils and a humbucker in the bridge. So this is if I didn't have the gate, then you would notice a little bit of single coil hum. So there's a little bit of noise, but nothing too crazy. And again, it's just for my guitar. You may have some noiseless single coils, or your single coils might be voiced differently. But let's just go through the kind of the main sound. So I'll go through all 5 of the pickup. The pickup configurations, and the whole point of this is going to be kind of your standard clean-ish plexi Marshall. And the whole point of this preset is that you can roll off your volume knob, you can manipulate the tone knobs on your guitar, and you'll find that you can get a lot of tonal options. You can get something that's clean, something that's a little bit crunchy, and then you can use some of these drive pedals if you need more levels of gain. And of course, some of them are our favorite Marshall players also used a lot of fuzzes, so there's going to be access to be using fuzzes. But I'll go through the signal path. Here's kind of some of the basic sounds. Here is the neck pickup. And again, you can hear there's a little bit of an edge, a little bit of a breakup, and it's pretty bright, I will be the first to admit. But again, this is with the tone knob all the way wide open, all the way to 10. So you get a lot of different tonal options. You can roll off your tone knob to kind of shave off that top end. Of course, you can always tweak the amp knobs as such. Right here, I'm going to be using the 1959 SLP. This is the Marshall reissue of the Plexi. And again, this is just kind of their modern incarnation of it. Again, I think it's really great for just that kind of, very famous Plexi sound. So here is the neck pickup again, but I'm going to start rolling off and manipulating the tone knob. So you can see it's very, very touch sensitive. It's very great for if you're using the volume knob, you can get a lot of different tones out of this. Here is the second position, or the neck and middle. And again, it's that out of phase sound. So I find, even something like this, you could easily play funk if you just roll off the volume a little bit. And again, if it's too bright for you, you can always roll off the tone knob. And again, every guitar is going to be different. My guitar in particular has a rosewood neck, so it's already going to be a little bit darker. If you do have a maple neck, you may want to consider rolling off a little bit more of the treble and presence in the knob in case your guitar is very bright. But I find that top end kind of gives it a little bit more of that sparkle that you need to kind of cut through a mix and give it that classic Strat tone. Here is the middle pickup. And it has that classic Strat sting to it. But you can, of course, roll off that the tone knob, or even the volume knob. And it cleans up really great. So again, you can do a lot of that kind of Hendrixy thing. I think you play that on the neck pickup, but you get the idea. All right, so now I have a humbucker and a single coil. So this is position 4, I guess they would call that. So this is the middle pickup and the bridge humbucker. And again, you'll notice it's very clean-ish. But a lot very friendly to the tone knob. And very friendly to the volume knob as well. And of course, here is the humbucker, and you'll notice it's starting to, again, start getting into that kind of crunchy territory. Got that kind of Stonesy quality to it. And again, this is with the tone knob fully up at 10. You can always roll off the tone knob a little bit. And again, cleans up really well. Again, we're going for that very classic Marshall thing. You'll notice that I'm using the jump Plexi. This is where on the real Plexi Marshalls, you could put a jumper cable between the inputs to use them both together. And again, if you do plan on tweaking the sound after you, do this preset, the treble gain is just like what it says. It is going to add a little bit more of that top end and a little bit more gain. And then the normal gain kind of adds that darker, lower, low mid, kind of low end, darker gain. And the classic way to dial in a lot of these Marshalls is definitely, the ratio between these two. And again, it's going to be very guitar dependent. I plan on making a Les Paul version of this. And then of course I would dial this in completely different. So next up, we have a volume block here. And then this is going to be using expression pedal number 2. So If you are using expression, make sure you're using it in the FM9 and PDL number 2. You can, of course, change it to PDL number 1 if you want to use the first input. But again, for this preset, I want it to be, plug and play. If you don't use 2 expression pedals and you only use 1, you do have the option of either making sure the expression pedal is controlling the volume, or the next block is going to be controlled by the wah, and I'll go over that in a second. And again, one of the things is where the volume block is placed is going to change how the amp reacts. So for example, if you put it in front of the amp, and as you can see here, what this signal path is doing is it's using the send and return block just to give it a little bit more room, is that you're going to be putting the volume block in front of the amp. So rolling off the volume block right here with the expression pedal is also like rolling off the volume knob. It's going to start cleaning up the amp. So here is the amp like kind of crunchy in the humbucker. If I roll it off, so you can see the amp reacts in a very specific way. For those of you who are used to using a volume pedal, an Ernie Ball volume pedal, or any type of volume pedal in front of the amp, this is the way to go. If you want to change that behavior so that you're rolling off the volume without affecting the gain of the amp, then put the volume block here, and I've left some space to do that. So all you need to do is drag and drop the volume block here and then hit save. And it will now do this type of behavior where the gain of the amp is not going to be affected, but you can still roll off the volume. So this is going to be useful, especially if you have, an overdrive in front of it. As opposed to if you put the volume block in front, then the volume block is also going to roll off it's going to be like rolling off your volume knob. And again, you might be used to that kind of behavior where maybe you roll off a little bit of your volume knob and then use the volume pedal as well. And you find that perfect combination between the volume pedal and the volume knob on your guitar. One of my favorite guitar players, Mike Landau, does a lot of that. So again, the option is up to you. Next up in the signal path, we have a wah pedal. Pretty generic, standard wah sound. You can, of course, change it to some of this other one. Because this Marshall's pretty bright, I didn't want to use one of the brighter wahs. And of course, if it's still too bright for your ears, by all means, feel free to roll off the top part of this frequency. And again, this wah is going to be tied to PDL number 1, pedal number 1. And so make sure your expression pedal is in pedal number 1. And again, we are using the auto engage feature right here. And of course, this PC reset is going to be on so that when you load this preset, the wah will be off by default. So the auto engage feature is useful so that if you use an expression pedal, you don't have to use the toe switch. So you can just use any generic expression pedal, whether you're using one of the Fractal expression pedals. In my case, I'm using a Roland EV5. And again, the wah will turn on automatically if the FM9 senses that you're moving the wah or the expression pedal. So here is kind of the wah sound. And then when the expression pedal is toe up, heel down, aka all the way back, the wah pedal turns off automatically. You can, of course, change this behavior if you need the wah pedal to be always forward. But again, that's going to be very user dependent. I find that it's super easy. And again, you don't need to tie the bypass state to a expression pedal such as a Mission SP1 where you're using the toe switch to turn this on. The next section of this is, of course, this is the send and return. Make sure your return level remains at 100%. And all we're doing here is taking this signal path and then just moving it down into the next row to give us a little bit more room to work with so we can add some of these effects. So if you've purchased some of my previous presets, generally what I've always done is I've had a clean boost and then an overdrive section and then a distortion section. Now that we're in the Marshall world, I felt maybe it would be fun to add a little bit more of the fuzz stuff, especially if you're a fan of Hendrix and players like that. Obviously, a lot of those 60s and 70s guitar players were using fuzz pedals a lot. So instead of using an overdrive here, we are just going to be putting the fuzz section here, and then the distortion section is going to be that button right there. And again, you can use some of there's going to be some clean boosts and overdrives. Because this amp is already almost kind of crunchy, I felt like it wasn't super necessary to also have like a clean boost and an overdrive. So the clean boosts themselves are going to give a little bit more grit, and then the distortion blocks are going to give you, just different flavors of distortion. So if this is the first video that you're watching of this series with these gig ready presets, what I have done is I've programmed 4 different versions of a clean boost, or in this case, 4 different versions of a distortion / overdrive, and 4 different versions of a fuzz. So by all means, I'm just going to go through each of these. It gives you a lot of different tonal options. Everybody's ears are different. Everybody's musical situations are different. So I'm just going, I decided why don't I just program 4 channels, and you can choose which ones you like best, of course, especially if they are going to be pedals that you're familiar with. In this case, again, I took a lot of inspiration for this preset from guys like Scott Henderson and Mike Landau, as well as some of, the more famous or infamous Marshall players. So the first set of clean boosts in channel A is going to be the Esoteric RCB. This is the Exotic Effects RC Booster. This is just going to give you a little bit more grit. And then here it is with the bridge pickup. Sounds really great in the bridge pickup. If you're using it for the neck, you can of course roll off the tone knob. And here I'm rolling off my volume knob. Just kind of gives it a little bit of some thickness and girth to those notes. Again, I got my tone knob around 7 and my volume knob around 7. So it just gives it that really great kind of bluesy kind of amp starting to break up kind of flavor. And again, what you can always do is look for this headroom parameter right here, and you can start seeing how the amp is reacting. So you can see where that, very, very great edge of breakup kind of sound, you can start looking for that headroom parameter and seeing if the boost pedal is getting the amp into that territory. Next up in channel B, we have the Tone of Kings. This is the King of Tone pedal. Mike Landau used to use this back in the day. And you'll notice that the level parameter is way up. Again, just a different version of a clean boost. And the clean boost is not going to make the volume of this amp go up. We have a filter block down here, which I'll address later, to give you a volume boost for guitar solos and everything like that. The clean boost is just getting the amp to start to overdrive a little bit more. So here it is with just the bridge pickup. Just to get it just kind of in that almost distorted territory. And of course, the cool thing about clean boosts into slightly gritty amps is you can roll off the volume knob and you have a lot of tonal options to work with. Okay, next up in section channel C is the Blues OD. This is the Blues driver. Just another flavor of kind of slightly clean boosted overdrive. Again, kind of, taking inspiration from maybe Andy Timmons. As you can see, if you manipulate the volume knob and the tone knobs, you can get a lot of different tonal flavors. And then D is the Fuzz boost. This is the Fractal's own boost pedal. As you can see, it has a lot of gain. And we're not even that high on the drive, and we're boosting the input of this. And you can, of course, roll off the tone knob in the bridge pickup. Gives a really great overdriven sound, in case that's the flavor that you're looking for. I'll leave it in the RCB. And of course, because these three are in a row, you can, of course, stack overdrive. So these are going in order of the amount of gain they have. So you can, of course, turn on these these clean boosts and stack them with this distortion section. So in the drive block number 2, again, same thing, 4 different channels of different flavors of distortion / overdrive. The first one is the Clone Chiron, aka the Klon pedal. Again, just a great all-around kind of distortion overdrive. And because the amp is already kind of slightly on the clean-ish, it's already going to give you a lot of distortion when you hit it with some of these pedals now. So you can easily do like a rock gig, you know, just using this overdrive in front of that Marshall. Really great pedal for that. And of course, you know, with the with the single coils, you know, you get a lot of tonal options as well. So again, that's a single coil, the tone knob slightly rolled off. If you keep your tone knob all the way at 10, you're going to get a lot of that Marshall Strat sting. And you have a lot of different tonal options for that. So in the B, this is the Sonic Drive, aka the Maxon SD9. This is the kind of Mike Landau, Scott Henderson kind of distortion pedal that they prefer. So you'll notice that the tone knob is rolled way off and the level is all the way at 10. These are kind of similar settings that they use. And again, it's more of like very good for like, you know, single note lines in the bridge pickup. A lot of thickness and girth in those notes. Here is the single coils. And what they always do is, of course, they can boost the input of this with the RC booster. So a lot of different options if you're into that sort of thing. And again, it's more of that kind of fusion-esque kind of distortion. Next up in channel C, this is the Jam Ray. This is the Vemurim Jan Ray. Again, another favorite of Mike Landau. Just kind of more of that kind of Fender-esque kind of overdrive. Again, very friendly with the volume knob. Same thing with the single coils. You can almost, with a lot of these overdrives and the way the Marshall reacts, you can leave one of these overdrives on and you can just use your volume knob. And then roll it up. So with sounds like this, I tend to do that a lot. Again, for those of you who have gigged real Marshalls, this is kind of like par for the course. Next up, channel D is the tape distortion, you know, kind of made famous. It's, you know, like using a tape and overdriving, using like a tape machine as a boost, you know, kind of Deep Purple-esque kind of thing. So you can do that kind of Ritchie Blackmore thing that he used to do. Again, not a very high gain kind of sound, but again, it could be useful for some of your Strat players who maybe want just kind of like a little bit of, you know, a little bit more than just the standard Marshall. Next up, I'll leave this on channel A. My favorites are channel A or B, just depends on what I'd like to do. So feel free to change the channel of this. And then of course you can hit save. So every time you turn on this drive block, it will either be the clone or the sonic drive or whatever your preferred overdrive is. Next up, we have the fuzz section again for, some of our more infamous Marshall players. They always used fuzzes, especially early on in the 60s and 70s. So here is kind of like the Hendrix-esque thing. Again, I don't claim that this is a perfect Hendrix recreation, but for that purple haze kind of thing, you can use the phase fuzz. Very, it's kind of that fuzz without too much of the spittiness. If you need a little bit more spittiness, you can, of course, go into the advanced section and start messing with the bias. And then that'll kind of simulate like batteries dying kind of thing. Next up, we have the infamous octave distortion. This is that kind of, pretty fun. Again, a lot of Hendrix tunes used to use this. The key to this, of course, is that rolling off the volume knob with the guitar and the neck pickup is going to give you kind of more of that upper octave. So make sure it's in the neck pickup, because in the bridge pickup, it's not going to react as well. Pretty fun to use that in case you need that kind of sound. Next up, we have the Sir Riot, and then the GE is Germanium. So this is kind of Sir's Sir Riot. It's their distortion pedal, but this is going to give you a little bit more of kind of some fuzz characteristics on their distortion. But again, in case you don't want to use fuzzes and you just want like a standard distortion, high gain kind of thing, this is a pretty good option. And then last but not least, we have the Pi Fuzz. This is going to be kind of more the Smashing Pumpkins kind of fuzz. So, songs like Cherub Rock. How do I play the riff? Again, very, very specific to that Smashing Pumpkins thing where you just want that super saturated kind of fuzz sound, or maybe you're playing a lot of single note lines. Again, could be useful if you like it. One thing I did not mention about the face fuzz, again, you can keep this on and then just use your volume knob to kind of roll off to get very, classic clean sound. So here's the fuzz all the way up. Roll off the volume knob. So you see it's very convincing clean sounds with the volume at about maybe 4 or 5. So a lot of that Hendrix stuff, you can totally just keep this fuzz on and then just start using the volume knob. Okay, so start doing that. One thing I kind of started to notice there is the gate was starting to kind of react to things. So I'm just going to roll the gate off just a little bit, just to give it a little bit more headroom when I roll off the volume knob. So the great thing that I love about all the classic Plexi Marshall kind of tones is that you can almost leave some of these pedals on, just use the volume knob and get all the tonal options just from the guitar. So really useful for a lot of you players who maybe just don't want to be button pressing all the time. You just turn on the overdrive and then just leave it as is. And you can hear there's a lot of clarity in the notes. And then of course you can roll the volume all the way up, switch to a different pickup. You know, reacts really well to the pick. Reacts well to fingers. So really great, kind of one of my go-to amps and kind of guitar tones that I generally use for a lot of my sounds. And again, super versatile. You can do a lot of different types of things with this. Feel free to adjust this as you wish. Of course, in the performance pages, you can, of course, adjust that as well, which I will address in a second. The next up, these are all just kind of time-based effects. I'll go through them really quickly. Again, just some, you know, standard stuff that you might need. So here is a tremolo. Pretty standard kind of Fender-esque tremolo. And again, I assigned it to a tap tempo, which you will have in the layout, which I'll address in just a short moment. We have a chorus here. And again, this is just kind of a generic chorus sound. Okay, and then next up we have a delay. This is using the Deluxe Mind Guide. Again, quarter note tempo. Feel free to adjust the feedback in the mix as you wish. Okay. Next up, we have a pretty standard reverb. This is the studio reverb. And again, this is kind of based off of a Lexicon kind of reverb. Pretty generic reverb sound. Feel free to change it to whatever you wish. But I find this just a good, nice go-to reverb to give it a little bit of space, but it's not too intrusive, and it gets out of the way pretty quickly. Next up, we have a big reverb sound, and this will be in the layout. So again, if you're kind of need something that's a little bit more spacey and washy, use this reverb. This is based off of one of the Strymon style cloud reverbs. You can, of course, volume swell into it, whether you use the volume knob on your guitar or the volume pedal. So a lot of different options there in case you need to do that. And last but not least, this filter block right here is a null filter. All this does is take whatever sound you have, whether you have the effects on or off, and then, of course, boost the volume by 4 dB. So if you're playing a guitar solo, if you need a guitar line to pop out, you can use the filter block, and it'll just say boost right here, vol boost, and that is just like you, of course, can just make your guitar tone louder for all your guitar soloing needs, etc. And it's just, you turn that on or off at will. Next up, this is the cab block, and I will talk about these outputs in just a moment. That we are using the 412 1960 TV. This is a Marshall cabinet, and some mic placements that I thought sounded good. And of course, there's already some standard low and high cuts in here. And again, these are just mic placements that I found worked for this type of guitar tone. So feel free to adjust at will if you need to. And last but not least, these outputs right here. In this preset, I wanted this to be super simple to drag and drop right into your FM9 so that you can use it on the gig literally tonight. And so we are going out of output 1, output 2, which are the XLR outputs on the back of the FM9. So you can go directly to front of house with output 1, and then output 2 could go to a full range monitor, whether you have a Fender FR12 or NX12 SMA or any of the options out there. There's so many, different types of full range flat response speakers. You could go out of the headphone jack of the FM9, so if you're playing at home or anything like that. And it gives you a lot of options to go to a cabinet on stage or whatever, and go to front of house simultaneously. And then you can use the knobs, the output 1 knob and the output 2 knob, to control the volumes independently. And then you'll see that we shunt off to output 3 here before the cabinet block. So if you are planning on using a power amp or going into the effects return of a guitar amp, use output 3. I would strongly recommend using a Humbuster cable if you have them. Fractal sells them on their website. But the reason why we do this is so that if you want to go to a power amp, whether it's a Matrix GT series power amp, any of the Seymour Duncan power amps, and you want to power a standard guitar cabinet, not a full range cabinet, but a standard guitar cabinet, you have the option here in output 3, and it won't have any cab simulation on it. So you'll get the optimal guitar tone. And again, make sure the output 3 knob is fully clockwise, so you get unity gain. And in the setup menu, you'll see here in the audio section, you want to make sure that it is unity gain right here. Some of these settings you don't have to copy, including this copy output 1. These can be run in stereo if you wish. This preset is designed for mono, so you can do stereo or mono. It's kind of irrelevant to this particular preset, so just ignore these settings here. But you can, of course, go out of output 3 to a power amp and also still go to front of house simultaneously, as well as going to in-ear rig. I mean, there's a lot of different options, too many to cover in one video. But again, I wanted to give the most versatile preset that you can just put right into your FM9, and you could take it to a gig tonight, no matter what kind of setup you have. So next up, you'll see that I'm using the overrides, per preset overrides, so that when you load this preset into your unit, it will already have all these effects in place. You don't need to, build your own layout or anything like that. And again, because we're using the per preset override, we will not be overriding any of your other layouts. So if you have a layout that you have programmed into your unit, or you're using the stock Fractal layouts, this will not override it. It only lives on this particular preset. So what you can do is, of course, right when you load it in there, it'll show up with just these buttons on the layout. Now, that reminds me that this preset is built in firmware 8.01. And yes, I am aware, as of recording this video, there are newer firmwares for the FM9. However, I wanted to have the maximum compatibility, especially for some of the users who have already bought my previous presets. Maybe they haven't upgraded their units yet. So I wanted to make sure that all these presets that I'm building for the gig-ready presets are all kind of around the same firmware. So again, just make sure your unit is at 8.01 or later. If you load this preset into your unit and you have an earlier firmware, this preset will load up blank. So again, you have to use 8.01 or later to do that. Now, in the foot controllers, you'll have access to all your effects that you need to turn on, and then the tap tempo and the tuner and other things. Last but not least, we have the performance pages right here. And this allows you to tweak some of these parameters on the fly. So you can, of course, adjust the override, the overdrive, the clean boost, and actually this should be the fuzzes. So I will make sure that we change that. So we want the fuzzes here, and then the overdrives here. So we'll do this, tone and level, and then of course the distortion here is going to be the overdrive gain, the overdrive tone, and the overdrive level. And of course, these will be distortion. I'll just change these really quickly. And then these will be for the fuzz. Okay, and we'll save that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition over to an overhead shot, so you can see how you can adjust and use all these performance pages in the middle of a gig. So you can make adjustments to the amp or adjustments to the overdrives in the middle of a gig. Because again, in a live performance or in a studio or a rehearsal or anything like that, some of these volumes might need to come up or come down. And again, it's just going to be, user dependent. So I wanted to give everybody the option to be able to do that when you are able to, adjust this on the fly on the unit itself without needing a laptop or FM9 edit to control them. Okay, so at this point, what I'm going to do is going to transition to an overhead shot. All right, hey everybody. So now that we have an overhead shot of this preset, you can see that all the effects have loaded here. You have the tap tempo, etc., the clean boost, all that. And so now what you can do is you can, of course, adjust these. As you can see, I set the outputs to kind of around 11 o'clock. A lot of clients and users ask me like, oh, where's the optimal way to set this? Again, you can just set this to whatever, because front of house is going to need a different signal path. Just make sure you tell them that you are sending a line level. You can, of course, adjust the outputs to how loud you need things on stage. And then output 3, if you're going into a power amp, should be fully clockwise. Now, if you need the tuner, you can hold down the tap tempo to turn on the tuner. This is very common to the Fractal factory layout. So you hit right here, you have the clean boost in the bottom left-hand corner, the distortion, and the fuzz. And of course, you can turn those on just like your standard stomp boxes. A chorus delay. The volume boost is over here just for people who, need to go up in volume, those kinds of things. And then you have the tremolo and the big reverb. And then, of course, the tap tempo to make sure that the delay and the tremolo are synced up in time to what you would like. When you load your FM9, whether you turn it on, whatever preset you're on, it generally loads in this screen right here. And if you want to get to the performance pages, all you need to do is press page right. And then what you're going to notice is that now you're going to be presented with this screen, and each of these knobs, the A, B, C, D, and E knobs, will correspond to the knobs for different things. I will correct that. It says distortion right there, or distortion. I will correct that for the final preset, but I'll just do that in a second. But what you can do is the C, D, and E knobs, for example, can control what the level is for the distortion, and you can use the B knob to turn up or down the amp level as well as the gain. If you need to go into the second row to control the clean boost level and the fuzz levels, you can, of course, hit the nav up and down in this particular thing. So you can do this. Now, the cool thing is you can leave it on this screen in the middle of a gig, in the middle of a rehearsal, studio session, whatever, and you can just crouch down and turn these knobs up or down as you wish, just like a real paddleboard. So the cool thing is if you want to make any adjustments, whether you're at sound check or anything like that, you can just make the adjustments here. Or for example, if you need to, control the fuzz level or the tone or anything like that, you can just turn these knobs. And the cool thing you'll see is that the knobs will correspond to this, and of course it changes it in the preset. Once you make any changes to the preset, if you want to commit them to be saved to the preset, then just make sure you hit store, enter, enter. So again, the whole goal of this type of preset is that you can just totally load it into your FM9, take it to a gig tonight, and have a lot of different tonal options to do that. So again, I wanted to go through a very in-depth video of this particular preset. Follow the link below in the description, and you can see a link to Gumroad for this preset to download it and purchase it. And again, if you just want to copy the settings, watching this video one by one, by all means, feel free to do that. For those of you who have purchased previous presets as well as hired me to program all your Fractal products, I just want to thank you so much. It really means a lot to me, and there's definitely going to be more to come in the near future. Feel free to leave a comment or a question below if you need any help programming any of your Fractal products. Feel free to contact me directly, and I can help get you started or help program your Fractal, your Quad Cortex, your Helix, any of that kind of stuff. So thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.
I'm falling with you, I'm standing with you, God.